The galaxy was full of rules, but one rule stood above all others. Aliens and humans were never meant to love. The law was clear, the punishment was cruel, and the shame was endless. Every child grew up hearing the same warning: keep your distance, never cross the line, never think about the heart of another species. For most, it was easy to obey. Humans stayed in their own settlements. Aliens kept to theirs, trade was allowed, business was tolerated, but feelings, affection, and closeness were forbidden. To love across the divide was to invite exile, prison, or even death. And yet, in the heart of a crowded alien city, a single human boy walked the streets. His name was Daniel, a worker sent to repair machinery for the alien factories. He kept his head down, his tools on his back, and his eyes on the ground. He knew the stares that followed him. He knew the whispers that echoed in the markets. Human, outsider, dangerous. Daniel had grown used to the weight of being unwanted. Every step he took reminded him that he was different. He told himself he didn't care, but deep inside, he felt the loneliness pressing harder than the work itself. Humans were rare here, and he had no friends, no family, no one to speak to when the nights grew long. That was when he noticed her. She was different from the others. Her skin shimmered with pale silver, glowing faintly under the market lights. Her long dark hair framed a face that was delicate yet strong. She had eyes that seemed alive with hidden fire. When Daniel first caught her gaze, he expected her to look away. Instead, she held it. Just for a second too long, it was enough to shake him. Enough to make his chest tighten in that single moment. He felt something stir, something he was not supposed to feel. The alien girl turned quickly, blending into the crowd. Daniel forced himself to look away. To bury the thought, he whispered under his breath, "Don't be stupid, you know the rule." But rules had never stopped the heart. The next day he saw her again. This time at the water stall, she stood among others. Yet her presence pulled his eyes as if drawn by gravity itself. Again their gazes met, again she didn't look away. A faint tremor ran through her hands as she exchanged coins, as if she too was wrestling with something unspeakable. Daniel felt his throat tighten. He wanted to step forward, to speak, to say even the smallest word, but his mind screamed at him to stop. He remembered the punishment stories, the way people vanished, the way families were broken. No human had ever survived such scandal. Still, the thought haunted him. Why did she look at him like that? Was it curiosity, was it danger, or was it something worse, something far more forbidden? That night, Daniel lay awake in the small room given to him by the factory. The city hummed with distant noise. Lights flickered outside the cracked window. He closed his eyes but saw only her silver skin, her dark hair, and those burning eyes. He told himself it was nothing, just an accident, just chance. But deep down, he knew better. The forbidden rule had been written to keep hearts apart. But Daniel's heart was already restless, already wandering toward a path that no human should take. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, the alien girl sat alone. Her people called her Lyra. She was young, but already her family was arranging her future. The elders had spoken of duty, of loyalty, of keeping the bloodline strong. She had nodded in silence, but her thoughts betrayed her. For the first time in her life, she had seen a human not as an outsider, not as a threat, but as something else entirely. His face had stayed with her, his eyes carrying both pain and strength. And though she knew it was wrong, though she had been raised to fear such feelings, she couldn't stop her heart from reaching toward him. The galaxy said aliens were never meant to love humans, but as the night deepened, two souls in the same city lay awake with the same thought, the same forbidden pull, and neither of them knew that this single crack in the rule would one day shake the stars themselves. The night market was closing. Vendors packed away their goods, lights dimmed, and the streets began to empty. Daniel lingered near the gate, his tools slung over his back. He told himself he was only waiting for quiet, only enjoying the cool air, but deep inside, he knew why his feet refused to move. He was waiting for her, the silver-skinned girl whose eyes had burned into his thoughts. The sound of soft steps made his heart race. He turned, and there she was, Lyra. She stood in the shadows, her long hair falling around her face. Her hands clutched a folded cloth as if she needed something to hold. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence stretched heavy between them, filled with both danger and longing. Daniel swallowed, his voice rough. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered. Her eyes flickered with fear. Yet she stayed. Her voice was soft, almost trembling. "Neither should you." They both knew the truth. This meeting was already a crime. If a guard passed by, if a neighbor saw them, Everything would be ruined. Daniel could be dragged away, Lyra could be punished. Their families, their futures, all shattered in an instant, and yet neither of them moved. Daniel took a step closer, careful, cautious. "Why do you look at me like that?" he asked, his words low. Lyra lowered her gaze, her silver skin glowing faintly in the moonlight. "Because I don't know why," she admitted.
"I have never spoken to a human before, but when I saw you—"
I could not stop myself. Her honesty shook him more than any lie could. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He wanted to laugh, to walk away, to protect himself. But the pull was too strong. "We can't," he said, almost pleading. "You know the rule?" "I know," she whispered. Her voice broke as if the words themselves hurt her. "But tell me, do you feel it too?" Daniel froze. His mind screamed to deny it, to say no, to cut this bond before it grew into something dangerous, but his heart betrayed him. His silence gave her the answer she already feared and hoped for. A soft wind blew between them, carrying the sound of distant voices. They both flinched, stepping back instinctively. But no one was near. Only the night, only them. Lyra lifted her eyes again, this time shining not with fear but with something braver. "If we are to be punished, let it be for truth," she said. Not for silence. Daniel stared at her, stunned. This alien girl, bound by laws harsher than his own, was daring to risk everything just to speak with him. He realized then that he was not the only one who lay awake at night, haunted by the forbidden pull. Their meeting lasted only minutes, yet in those minutes something unbreakable was born. They spoke in hurried whispers, sharing fragments of themselves. Daniel told her of the earth sky, of stars without neon haze, of rivers that sang in the forests. Lyra listened as if drinking water after a long thirst. Her people had banned such stories, calling them dangerous temptations, but to her they were treasures in return. She told him of her people's traditions, of the glowing festivals, of the songs sung beneath crystal towers. She spoke of duty, of chains invisible yet heavy. Daniel listened, his heart aching at the loneliness behind her words. For the first time in years, he smiled, not out of politeness, not out of habit, but because he truly felt alive. She smiled back, hesitant but real, their faces lit by nothing more than a shared secret. But danger pressed in on all sides. A sound echoed down the alley. Footsteps, armored, sharp. Daniel grabbed her hand without thinking, pulling her into the shadows of a broken wall. They held their breath as guards marched past, their eyes scanning the street. The moment stretched forever, their hearts pounding as one. When the footsteps faded, Daniel released her hand slowly, but the warmth of her touch lingered like fire. "You should go," he whispered, his voice unsteady. Lyra nodded, but her eyes refused to leave his. "Tomorrow," she whispered back, a promise hidden in the word before he could reply. She slipped away into the night, her figure fading into silver mist and darkness. Daniel stood frozen, his chest heavy with both dread and longing. He knew this was madness. He knew one day it would destroy them both. And yet, as he walked back to his lonely room, he carried with him something he could not let go of. It was no longer a glance, no longer an accident. Tonight had changed everything. The forbidden rule still stood, sharp and merciless. But in the shadows of the alien city, two hearts had already broken it. The nights grew colder, but Daniel no longer felt the chill. His steps carried him faster through the city after work. Not because of the factories or the noise, but because of her, Lyra. She was always there now, waiting in the quiet corners where no one dared to look too closely. Their meetings were silent at first, short and trembling. Every sound of boots in the street made their hearts jump. But as days passed, whispers turned into conversations, and conversations into laughter. What was once forbidden now felt like breath itself. Daniel found himself telling her everything he had hidden from the world. He told her of Earth's forests where green stretched as far as the eye could see. He told her of storms that rolled like drums across the sky, of rain that danced on rooftops until the whole city sang. He had not spoken of home for years, yet with her the words poured out easily. Lyra listened with wide eyes, drinking every word as if they were jewels. Her people spoke little of Earth. Only in warnings they said humans were wild, dangerous, full of greed. But Daniel's stories painted a picture of beauty and pain, of a world both fragile and strong. It was unlike anything she had ever heard. In return, she shared her own secrets. She spoke of the glowing towers that hummed with life energy, of the songs her people sang beneath crystal domes. She spoke of her mother's stern gaze, of her father's silence, of a family who measured love by duty, not by feeling. Her voice grew softer when she admitted how empty those halls felt, how lonely even a crowded home could be. Daniel understood too well. He knew loneliness better than most, and in her voice, he heard his own heart echoing back one night. They sat on the edge of an abandoned platform. The city light stretched before them, but it felt like they were the only two souls in the world. Lyra brushed her hand close to his, their fingers almost touching. She pulled back quickly, fear flashing in her eyes. "It is dangerous," she whispered. "Even sitting here is dangerous." Daniel nodded, his throat dry. "I know," he said, "but I would rather sit in danger with you than be safe without you." The silence that followed was louder than any sound. Her lips trembled. Her silver skin glowed faintly in the moonlight. Then slowly she placed her hand over his. Their fingers locked like two puzzle pieces finally finding their place. Neither of them spoke, they didn't need to. That single touch was louder than every warning, stronger than every law. But danger never slept unseen in the shadows. Whispers had already begun to grow. A shopkeeper had noticed the human walking through empty streets too often. A guard had wondered why the alien girl left her home so late at night. Rumors were forming like clouds before a storm, and neither Daniel nor Lyra knew it yet. Still the bond grew, stronger with each stolen moment. One evening, a sudden rainfall drove them to hide beneath a broken archway. The thunder cracked above and lightning painted the streets white. Lyra shivered, her thin shawl clinging to her shoulders. Daniel, without thinking, wrapped his jacket around her. She looked up at him, her eyes wide, and for the first time she laughed freely, a sound so warm it silenced the storm for him. "You are strange, human," she teased. "Strange and kind," he smiled back. "And you are brave. Braver than anyone I know." Their bond was no longer hidden inside them. It was alive, it was breathing. It was becoming impossible to deny. Yet with each smile, each laugh, the danger grew closer. Every stolen word added weight to the risk. Every glance could be the one that betrayed them. That night as they parted ways, Lyra hesitated. Her voice was soft, almost trembling. "Daniel, if they find out, they will take you away." Daniel met her gaze, his eyes steady. "Then let them try," he whispered. Lyra's breath caught, her heart pounded in her chest. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to hold on to his courage. But deep down she knew the storm was coming. She walked home with his jacket clutched close. Her hands shook, not from the rain, but from the truth she could no longer deny. She was falling into something forbidden, something dangerous, something that could destroy them both. But she could not stop. She could not let go, and neither could he. In the dark corners of the city, two lives were no longer separate. They were bound together by choice, by longing, by a love that no law could erase. The galaxy's most forbidden rule had already been broken. The storm arrived without warning. Dark clouds gathered over the alien city. Thunder shook the ground, and rain poured like silver needles from the sky. Daniel hurried down the empty street, his jacket pulled tight. He was heading back from work, his mind full of Lyra, wondering if she too was hiding from the storm. But then, in the corner of his vision, he saw her. Lyra stood at the edge of a crumbling alley, her shawl soaked through, her silver skin glowing faintly in the rain. She looked lost, vulnerable, yet her eyes locked onto his the moment he turned. "Lyra," he whispered, rushing toward her. She shook her head quickly. "You should not be here." Her voice trembled. "It is too dangerous." Daniel ignored the warning. He grabbed her hand, pulling her into the shadow of a broken wall. The rain drummed around them, but inside the narrow space it felt quiet, heavy. Their breaths mingled in the cold air, their hands still pressed together. For a moment they both froze. Her skin was soft, warmer than he imagined. The heat of her touch spread through him like fire. He wanted to let go, but his body refused. Lyra's lips parted, her chest rising and falling quickly. "Daniel." "This is wrong," she whispered, though her fingers did not pull away. He searched her face, every raindrop sliding down her silver cheeks. "If it's wrong," he said softly, "why does it feel like the only thing right in my life?" Her breath caught. Her eyes filled with something she had never shown before, fear mixed with longing. She looked away, her voice breaking. "They say humans bring chaos. They say love with your kind destroys us." Daniel shook his head, his grip steady. "Then let it destroy me," he said. "But I cannot stop this." The silence was deafening. broken only by the rain outside. Then slowly, carefully, she leaned closer. Their foreheads touched, a fragile bridge between two worlds. Her trembling breath warmed his skin, and in that moment, all the rules of the galaxy vanished. It was not a kiss, not yet. But it was more powerful than anything they had ever dared. Their first touch, unspoken, unplanned, but real. The storm raged on, lightning flashing above, but Daniel and Lyra stood unmoving, lost in each other. Then suddenly, the sound of boots echoed through the street. Guards, their voices sharp, carrying orders. Daniel pulled Lyra deeper into the shadows, holding her close against his chest, her body pressed against his, her heart pounding fast enough for him to feel. They waited silent as the guards passed by. One beam of light swept across the alley but missed them by inches. Lyra clutched his shirt, her whole body shaking. When the danger passed, she looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. "You could be killed for this." Daniel brushed a strand of wet hair from her face. His hand gentle. "So could you," he said. "But I don't care anymore." Her eyes glistened, tears mixing with the rain. She had spent her whole life obeying, fearing, pretending. Yet in his arms she felt something she had never known. Freedom. That night neither of them returned home quickly. They stayed hidden, whispering dreams into the darkness. Daniel spoke of building a life away from the city, where no law could reach them. Lyra listened, her fingers tangled with his, torn between terror and hope. But deep inside she knew what this meant. A single touch was no longer just comfort. It was a promise, a bond stronger than the rule itself. When dawn finally broke, painting the streets gold, they separated reluctantly. Her hand slipping from his felt like losing a part of himself. She turned back once, her eyes burning with words unspoken. Then she vanished into the waking city. Daniel stood alone, drenched and trembling. But he knew his life had changed forever. He had touched what the galaxy called forbidden, and he would never let it go. The city woke with its usual rhythm, but Daniel felt the change in the air. People glanced longer, voices carried lower, and footsteps seemed to follow too closely. Something had shifted, and he knew the reason. Rumors had started. At the factory, Daniel kept his head down, but whispers still reached his ears. "The human is not alone at night," one worker muttered. "I saw a girl near him," another replied. Their eyes flicked toward Daniel. Sharp and suspicious, he felt his chest tighten, the weight of their stares pressing against him. That evening, when he met Lyra in the quiet alley, her face was pale, her silver glow dimmed with fear. "They know," she whispered, clutching his arm. "I heard my family speaking. They said the guards are asking questions. They are searching for me at night." Daniel's heart pounded. "We have been careful," he said, though the words felt empty. He remembered the guards passing so close, the beam of light nearly finding them. Perhaps careful was no longer enough, Lyra trembled. "They will punish us if they find out." Her voice broke. "Not just me, but you too, Daniel. They will not let a human walk away." He gripped her shoulders gently, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Then we will not let them find out," he said firmly. "We will find a way. I promised you I would protect you. And I will." But promises were fragile against the eyes of an entire city. Later that night, a knock echoed on Daniel's door. He froze, his breath caught slowly. He opened the door to find two guards standing tall, their eyes cold. "You are the human mechanic," one of them said flatly. "We have questions." Daniel forced himself to stay calm. "What kind of questions?" The guard's gaze narrowed. "We heard you wander the streets at night." "We heard you meet someone. Who is she?" Daniel's blood ran cold. His hands clenched at his sides. He tried to sound steady. "I walk because I cannot sleep, that is all." "There is no one." The guard studied him, silent for a long moment. Then one leaned closer, his voice sharp. "If you are lying, human, we will know, and when we know, you will not leave this city alive." They left without another word, but their footsteps echoed long after they were gone. Daniel shut the door, his heart hammering. He knew they were watching him now, waiting for one mistake. The next day, Lyra arrived with tears in her eyes. "My family. They spoke to me. They told me to stay away from the human." Her voice shook. "They said it is forbidden. They said if I continue, I will no longer be part of them." Daniel's chest ached at her words. "And what did you say?" he asked softly. Her hands trembled as she reached for his. "I told them nothing. I stayed silent, but inside, I could not let go of you." Her defiance warmed him, but it also terrified him. The walls were closing in, The city's eyes were turning sharper. Every step they took together was a step toward disaster. That night, Daniel and Lyra met on the old platform again. Rain slicked the stones, and the city lights blurred in the mist. "We cannot hide much longer," Daniel admitted, his voice low. "They will keep searching until they find us." Lyra's eyes filled with fear. "What can we do?" Daniel hesitated. His mind raced with thoughts he had tried to bury. "We can run," he said at last. "Leave the city. Find a place where no one knows us. We cannot fight them here, but maybe we can escape them." Lyra's lips parted, shock in her expression. "Leave everything," she whispered. "My home. My family." "Do they truly give you a home?" Daniel asked gently. "Do they see you, Lyra? Do they let you be yourself? Or do they only see duty, rules, chains?" Her eyes glistened. Her silence gave him the answer. The choice was impossible, yet it was the only path left. Unseen to them, shadows stirred nearby. A figure slipped away into the darkness, carrying whispers of the human and the alien girl to ears that waited eagerly. The betrayal had already begun. When Daniel walked back to his room that night, he felt the storm closing in. He knew the city was watching. He knew the guards would return, and he knew that soon. Their secret would no longer be safe. The forbidden bond was no longer hidden, it had been uncovered. And the galaxy did not forgive such sins. The city was no longer the same. Every street felt like a trap. Every glance carried suspicion. Guards walked slower when Daniel passed, as if daring him to make a mistake. He felt their eyes on his back even when no one was there. Lyra, too, was drowning in fear. Her family watched her more closely. Her mother's words grew sharper, her father's silence heavier. "Do not leave at night," they warned. "Do not shame us." But Lyra's heart no longer belonged to their rules. It was already tied to Daniel one night. Daniel met her in the shadows of the old platform. His face was pale, his voice urgent. "We cannot wait any longer," he said. "They are watching me. Soon they will take me, and if they take me, they will use you too." Lyra's breath caught. "What can we do?" she whispered, her eyes wide. Daniel's jaw tightened. He pulled out a small folded map, worn and creased. "I have been asking questions quietly," he explained. "There are tunnels under the old factories. Long ago they were used for moving supplies. Now they are abandoned. If we can reach them, we can slip out of the city before dawn." Lyra's hands trembled as she touched the map. The lines looked like salvation and danger woven together. "Leave everything," she murmured. Daniel nodded. "It is the only way, Lyra. Your family will never forgive you. The guards will never spare me. We must build our own future." Away from their eyes, she stared at him, her heart torn. But when she remembered his touch, his voice, his promise, the answer was clear. "Then I will go," she whispered. That night they began to prepare. Daniel packed what little he had, tools, a flask, a few scraps of food. Lyra carried a small pouch of glowing stones, treasures of her people. She did not know why she brought them, perhaps because they were proof of who she was, proof she was more than what her family wanted her to be. As the city slept, they moved like shadows. Every sound made them freeze, every echo of boots made their hearts race. When they reached the factory gates, Daniel's hand shook as he pried open the rusted lock. The creak of metal felt louder than thunder. "Quickly," he whispered, pulling Lyra inside. The air was thick with dust. Old machines loomed in the dark, silent and broken. He led her to a cracked stone floor and pushed it aside, revealing a narrow passage that sloped downward. The air was cold, damp and heavy with the scent of earth. "This is it," Daniel said. "Once we go down, there is no turning back." Lyra's hand found his, her grip firm despite her trembling. "Then let us not turn back," she whispered. They climbed into the darkness. The tunnel stretched endlessly, water dripping from the ceiling. Their footsteps echoed, but they pressed forward. Hope pushing them farther, but hope was not alone. Far above, in the city streets, soldiers were already gathering. The betrayal had reached them. A voice had whispered the truth. An alien girl and a human planning to flee. The order was given. Find them before sunrise. In the tunnels, Daniel and Lyra did not yet know. They only felt the urgency of time slipping away. "We will reach the outer fields," Daniel explained as they walked. "From there, we can follow the river to the mountains." No patrol searched that far, Lyra listened, her heart heavy with both fear and excitement. For the first time, she imagined a life beyond the walls. A life where she was not chained by her family's expectations, A life where Daniel was not treated as less than human. But the echoes behind them grew louder. Daniel stopped suddenly, his ears straining. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. Lyra froze, her heart pounded. Yes, there it was, the distant clang of boots. "The sound of pursuit, they are coming," Daniel muttered. His voice grim, he pulled her forward. "We must move faster." They ran through the tunnels, their footsteps splashing through shallow water. The map in Daniel's hand shook as he searched for the next turn. Every path looked the same, every shadow whispered danger at last. They reached a set of stone steps leading upward. A faint light shone at the top. Daniel's chest burned with hope. "That is it, Lyra." The way out, but before they could climb, voices echoed behind them. Closer now, guards shouting, boots pounding. The tunnel shook with their approach. Lyra's eyes widened, her breath short. "Daniel!" He grabbed her hand, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. "We will not be caught," he said firmly. "Not tonight." Together they began to climb, their fingers scraping stone, their hearts racing behind them. The guards' voices grew louder. The escape plan that had been their only hope was about to be tested. And in that moment, Daniel and Lyra knew. This was no longer about running. It was about survival. It was about love standing against an entire world that wanted to tear it apart. The tunnel steps seemed endless. Daniel's hand pulled Lyra upward, every muscle in his body screaming with effort. Behind them, the shouts of guards grew louder, boots pounding like drums of war. The glow of torches flickered against the tunnel walls, chasing them closer. At last they burst into the open air. The night sky spread above them, wide and endless. The field stretched like a sea of silver grass under the moon. For a moment, hope flared in Daniel's chest. They were out, they were free. But freedom did not wait for long. From the shadows of the field, more soldiers appeared. Blocking their path, blades gleamed, voices roared. "Stop them. Do not let them escape," Daniel froze. Pulling Lyra behind him, his chest heaved. His eyes darted around desperately. There was no open path, no safe way out. Lyra clung to him, her silver skin trembling under the moonlight. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice breaking. "They will kill you." "They will kill us both." Daniel's jaw tightened. He knew she was right. He could see it in the eyes of the soldiers. Hatred, disgust, fear. They saw not two people, but a crime against their world. The soldiers closed in, their circle tightening. A commander stepped forward, his voice cold as steel. "Alien girl, step away from the human. Return to your people and you may be forgiven. Stay with him and you will share his punishment." The words sliced through the night like a blade. Lyra's hands shook, her tears glistened. This was the moment, the choice she had feared. Daniel turned to her, his eyes filled with pain and love. "Lyra," he whispered, "go. Save yourself, please. I cannot let them hurt you for me." Her heart broke at his words. But deep inside, she already knew her answer. She had known it from the first time she met his eyes. She stepped closer to him, her grip on his hand unshakable. "No," she said, her voice steady despite the fear. "I will not leave you if they take you." "They take me too." The commander's face hardened. "Then you choose death." Daniel pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. His voice was low, meant only for her. "I am sorry I brought this to you." Lyra pressed her forehead against his. "No," she whispered, "you gave me life. You gave me love for that. I will never let go." The circle of soldiers raised their weapons. The moment hung frozen, time itself holding its breath. And then, something happened that none of them expected. From the nearby hills, lights appeared. Dozens, then hundreds, torches carried by people of the city. Both alien and human, they had heard the rumors. They had followed the whispers. And now they stood watching, their voices murmuring. One child cried out, "They only love." "Why punish love?" Another voice rose, then another. Until the field was filled with noise, with defiance, the soldiers hesitated. Their blades wavered, the commander shouted for silence. But the crowd's voices grew louder. "Let them go, let them live. The rule is broken." Daniel and Lyra clung to each other, disbelief in their eyes. What they had thought was the end had become something else entirely. Their love had not only defied the rule, it had lit a fire in others. The commander raised his blade once more. But his soldiers faltered. Their eyes shifted toward the crowd, toward the tide of voices demanding change. In that moment, the law began to crumble. Not by blade, but by truth. Daniel looked into Lyra's eyes, his voice shaking. Do you see? We are not alone anymore. Her tears flowed freely, but her smile was brighter than the stars. You were right, Daniel. Love is stronger than fear. The soldiers lowered their weapons. One by one, the commander shouted in rage, but even his own men stepped back. The voices of the people drowned him out. Daniel and Lyra stood together in the field, hand in hand, their bodies trembling but unbroken. They had been hunted, cornered, nearly destroyed, yet in the end, their choice had changed everything. The galaxy's most forbidden rule had fallen. That night, as the stars shone above, Lyra whispered softly, "No matter what comes next, promise me one thing." Daniel brushed her hair gently, his voice steady. "Anything. Promise me you will never let go," she said. Daniel tightened his arms around her, his voice firm, "Never." And in that promise, in that choice of forever, the universe itself seemed to bow. The story of a human and an alien girl, once forbidden, had become something greater than law, greater than fear, greater than the stars.